Well, good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining me back again for the first video, the first YouTube video, where we're going to discuss some of the common things that happen with first responders. And I said on the post I did on Instagram the other day that there is a number of issues when it comes to first responders, when it comes to PTSD, when it comes to everything that goes along with trauma that first responders face, and how that carries over into relationships. I'm really thankful for the people that were brave enough to step out and ask me to do a post on relationships within first responders. It, I believe, is very common for first responders, spouses, to endure PTSD not only in themselves, but then bring that into their relationships as well. I know that I went through my own experience where PTSD affected my relationship and led down the path of my ex-wife and myself and the breakdown of our marriage. And so there's a lot of places where this hits home to me as well. And for a lot of time, I thought maybe it was, just the communication that we had in our relationship, the lack thereof, that helped, deteriorate the relationship a bit. But as I got further on into my own journey and I got further on into school and going through my own mental health recovery, I really was able to become aware that it was the trauma in itself. It was the PTSD, the major depression, then the alcohol abuse, the anxiety that was leading our relationship down a negative path. And I truly believe, and I just want to throw a caveat in there, that these things that I discuss on here are only my opinions. They're not gospel. This is not a therapy session. This is just what I've learned and what I see, and I'm really open to people that are more, I guess, in tune to relationships and relationship struggles, to jump on here, comment on anything that I post, and correct me where I'm wrong or add to the points. I think the more that we can put out there, this isn't a therapy session, this is an information session. So the more information that we can put out there, the more knowledge that we can put out there for first responders to be able to access, learn about, and even dive into their own further research is great. So, anybody that wants to jump on here and comment, add things to this, I am, by all means, please do. You're not going to offend me. The more information that we can spread to the people that are struggling, the better. PTSD symptoms that spill into a relationship, they often, are caused by things like hyperarousal, avoidance, emotional numbing, all the things that first responders deal with when they go to work. Hyperarousal, they're always on edge. I was always on edge, which leads to irritability and anger because you're always on edge. And you think to yourself, if you go out there and you work a shift, a 10-hour shift, and you have dealt with a lot of bad stuff or maybe even endured some more trauma, your nervous system is tapped. It's wired. And so it's very hard to just at the end of a 10-hour shift, just shut that off. So when you come home, and it's something that I think first responders really need to be cognizant about, is that when we come home at the end of a shift, are we allowing the things that happen to us in that shift bleed over into our family? And it happens, and I think that it's not necessarily our faults, but we have to be aware that this is happening, right? And this is only one thing that leads to the deterioration of the relationships that we're in. Avoidance is another thing. Avoidance was huge for me because I was trying to deal with so much stuff at work, deal with so much PTSD symptoms that I was experiencing, that when I ended up coming home at the end of the shift, I didn't want to endure any more trauma. I didn't want to endure any more sad. I didn't want to endure any more emotions because I was having trouble battling with how I helped people, with how I helped my kids, with how I helped my wife, with how I helped the people around me. And eventually I was struggling to find the ways that I could make things better, that I could help these help my family members, be okay when they weren't okay. And for me, it turned into avoidance. I didn't want to come home. I didn't want to be at home. I didn't want to endure that pain. That I think the biggest thing for me is I didn't want it to be a letdown to the people that I loved at home. But in turn, that wasn't the way they were taking it. In turn, they were seeing me shut down. I was leaving my family no choice but to struggle along with me because I wasn't there to be their support system. And that's another big thing that we carry home from our shifts every day, is that we have been that person for everybody else all day long, and then we're tired at the end of the day. We come home, we want to be left alone in most instances, and here we have another group of people that are just wanting and expecting more out of us at the end of the day, and we can't give it. And I think I found myself trying to avoid that. And I wouldn't even say I would say that I was avoiding it because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to deal with it. And being in that situation, that led to hyperarousal, that led to, my emotions being heightened, that led to the irritability and the outbursts and the anger, because I physically and mentally couldn't handle what was going on at home after the end of a long day at work. And for me, like a lot of first responders, I'm sure, we believe that we're okay. I know I thought I was okay because when I went to work, everything was good. Everything was great. Everything was, I laughed. I was happy. I was motivated. I was everything else. And it seemed like when I came home was when stuff started to deteriorate. Stuff started to go downhill. For a long while, I thought, well, it was the family situation. It had to be that because it couldn't be at work. It couldn't be, being in the rush of the adrenaline all day, because I was happy when I was there. I was glad to be there. I was excited. But it was when I came home that everything started to hit me. Everything started to, go downhill. And for a long period of time, I thought, well, it must be the situation at home, which I wasn't okay with, or I wasn't dealing with very well. But as I've gone through my journey, I've realized that the reason for that was not because I was happy at work, was not because I ended up coming home at the end of the day and I was miserable at home. I was really just miserable. I was miserable at work. I was miserable at home, but the people that I loved at home, the people that loved me at home, they were my safe place. So they were my place to unload all my negative emotions on. I couldn't do that at work. I couldn't go to work. I knew that I had to. We were trained. It was beat into us as police officers that you go to work and you be able to sustain the pressure and the stress of the job, and you don't allow that to show. Well, eventually it doesn't matter who you are. If you're human, that has to come out. So where does it come out? It comes out at home. And when it comes out at home, then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a position where we're deteriorating our relationships inside our house. And that's not okay. That's not okay, because at the end of the day, when you take everything away, the only people that you have left are the people that sit within inside your very home. Your kids, your wife, your mom, your dad, whoever that may be. They're the ones that you're putting all of this stuff onto. I always joke now, and it's not a funny joke, but it was always like, we as first responders, the first thing that comes out of our mind is well, the people that are around us, they don't understand. They don't get it. They just don't get what I go through in a day. And now as I look back and as I carry through in my journey, I have a tough time with that. Because unless they're first responders, unless they go through exactly what you go through, it's not their job to get it. They don't get it. And they won't get it because they don't experience it like you do, like we do. So we have to remember that it's our job as first responders to make sure that we take the steps to be okay for the people that really love us, for the people that we come home to every day, for the really, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters, whether that's 1, 2, 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids, a wife, only a wife, a dog, or a cat. It's the people that matter when we get home at the end of the day. Those are the only important things in our life. And I think as first responders, we need to really engage in that and really listen to the people that are around us, the people that love us. Really be in tune with what they're saying, because if they're saying, "Hey, look, I don't think you're doing okay," then I think it's our job as a first responder or as anybody to say, maybe they're seeing something we're not seeing. Maybe there is more to this than, well, no, it's not me, it's you. It's not you, it's me. It's maybe they're right. Maybe they're saying something that's of value, and maybe it's something that we as first responders, military personnel, or even regular citizens have a duty as a dad or a mom or a brother or sister, son or daughter, to say, "Hey, maybe I need to reach out. Maybe I need to explore this a little more with a professional of some kind to find out if there's something more to this." Because the sad thing for me was, by the time I got to really see what went on in my life, it was too late. It was too late. So now, and I don't sit here, feeling sorry for myself. I have a very good relationship with my ex-wife, and we parent our kids very well together. And so I don't sit here feeling sorry for myself, but there is a path forward, that it doesn't have to be like this if we take the steps to learn how to make it better. And I'm not going to be the one that sits here and tells you what you need to do or what you should do. All I'm saying is that we have a duty to make sure we're the best we can be when we get home at the end of the day. We're the best we can be for the people that are out there, for the people that we serve, for the people that we protect, for the people that we care for every single day. We have to understand that there is people at home at the end of the day that need us to be our very best too. And how I look at it now, almost even better. We need to be even better for them, because not only are we making sure they're okay, but we also need to set an example for what they will become in their future years. So when we look at these things like, emotional numbing and stuff, all this stuff that we go through, it all weighs us down. It all weighs us down at first responders, and it bleeds into our relationships. Because if you're emotionally numb, or if you're, feeling avoidance, or if you're really fighting something on the inside that's due to sustained trauma, then you're allowing that to bleed over into your relationships. Because when you have an argument with your wife or your partner, you won't learn to, or you won't communicate. You'll shut down. You'll avoid the situation. So then that argument or that conflict, it lingers, and we don't deal with it. And then that stress builds up. It builds up in our partners. It builds up in us, because at the end of the day, these people that are at home, they love you. They love us. And they just want us to be okay. But we're making it impossible for them to be okay. So after this video, I'm going to break down some of the stuff that I talked to about hyperarousal and how it may affect, your spouse. And there's 5 topics that I'm going to talk about, in the next videos when it comes to relationships and first responders. And they're just PTSD symptoms that spill into our relationship, and then how them PTSD symptoms that spill over into our relationship starts to cause our spouses and our children's secondary traumatic stress, how our communication gets strained, how we shut down around our partners and we don't talk, how that leads to sleep, how that lack of sleep leads to further stress, both at home and at work. And then the role of how the conflict at work carries over into our relationships. And I don't say this as a person that's working towards becoming a counselor. I say this as somebody that's gone through this. Every one of these 5 things that I just talked about, I did, and I went through and I experienced. And not only did I experience it, I've now come to understand what I did and where I went wrong. So going forward, I hope this resonates with some of you that, it's not uncommon. This is not an uncommon thing. This is not a bad thing. It's just something that happens to us because of the job that we do every day. And the message that I hope to get out to everybody in this is that we just don't allow it to happen. We just don't allow this to carry over into our family life. How we do that? Well, that's going to look different to everyone. I don't know how somebody ends up dealing with this, but what I want first responders to know is that, there's probably something that you've been dealing with at work that's going on at work, that you are carrying over into your personal life in some capacity. And so if there is a little bit of strain there in your relationship, maybe look at that. Maybe take a step back and say, hey, maybe there's something more to this than just the tension that I'm experiencing in my relationship. But on the other hand, I want spouses to understand something too. A lot of times these first responders that you're living with, they truly don't believe or understand that there is something wrong with them. Because for so many years, we've learned to live with this as first responders. We've learned to become this person that deals with stress, is numb to emotion, is quote unquote strong when it comes to dealing with shitty situations. So when you endure that for many, many years, you think that you're operating okay. I did. I thought that I was flying high on top of the world. I thought I was the strongest person in the world. But what I found out is that is completely backwards. I wasn't necessarily the strongest person in the world. And why wasn't I? Not because I wasn't able to do my job, but because I shut down and I made it worse for the people that really mattered. So stay tuned for more to come. Thank you for watching this video. Please comment if there's anything that you want me to discuss further. If there's anything that you think you can add to this, I challenge you to comment on this. You're not going to offend me. I'm going to read all of them. So I challenge you to comment on this. I look forward to discussing more of these in more detail in the weeks to come. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining me on the Silenced Sirens.